Russian President Vladimir Putin has not been afraid to show off his bullying tactics for the past 2 decades. Putin, 69, rose to power in Russia in 2000 and is the longest-serving Kremlin leader since Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. While in office, the former KGB agent has aggressively shown his determination to reassert Russian power in the face of the US and its NATO allies. In 2018, Putin was re-elected for 6 years in a controversial national vote that gave him the power to stay in office past his 4th term, which ends in 2024. Putin previously described the USSR's collapse in 1991 as the biggest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. He has made his resentment of NATO's expansion near Russian borders public through scaling up military and reigniting Western suspicion of his intentions for the first time since the Cold War. In the past 20 years, Putin has shown what a bully he is and how he plans to exert his power over the perceived enemy of the West. From the most recent invasion of Ukraine to attempted assassinations of critics, we've found at least 7 warning signs to the world from Putin before Russia invaded Ukraine. In September 1999, a series of explosions in Bayansk, Moscow and Volgodonsk killed more than 300 and injured 800 people. Putin blamed the bombings on Chechen rebels, said, "We will pursue them everywhere. We'll catch them in the toilet. We'll wipe them out in the outhouse." These bombings were the justification to start the Second Chechen War and helped Putin rise in popularity. The armed conflict was fought between 1999 and 2000, but the far-reaching impacts have been felt for years since. Russia established direct control over Chechnya in May 2000, not long after Putin rose to power, and exerted political control for several years. By the mid-2000s, Putin transferred some power to pro-Russian Chechen forces. International criticism for this war was rife as it was speculated the Federal Security Service (FSB), the successor agency to the KGB, was likely behind the bombings that gave Putin his green light to start the war. Alexander Litvinenko was a former officer of the FSB and KGB. He fled to the UK after criticizing what he said was corruption within the Russian government and remained a vocal critic of Putin. In 2006, Litvinenko was assassinated by Andrei Lugovoy and Dmitry Kovtun by poisoning from polonium-210-induced acute radiation syndrome. Global speculation and investigations by British authorities led to deterioration between Britain and Russia's relationship. No charges were ever made, but a Scotland Yard representative testified during a public hearing nearly 10 years later saying that the evidence suggests that the only credible explanation is in one way or another the Russian state is involved in Litvinenko's murder. Putin annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine, which sparked international condemnation. The Russian leader escalated military presence on the peninsula as it was branded a violation of international law. The Russian government has rejected calling it an annexation as Putin maintains he is protecting the self-determination of its people. Russian intervention in the Syrian War 2015. Putin got involved in the Syrian civil war when he launched airstrikes in support of Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad. He claimed the airstrikes were to help destroy terrorist organization ISIS, but the intervention also turned the civil war in Assad's favor. By December 2017, Russian troops were deployed to Syria. Putin's military campaign in Syria drew significant criticism from the West as NGOs said his airstrikes killed more civilians and children than the terrorists he claimed to be targeting. Russia meddles in U.S. elections 2016. It was long suspected that Putin was involved in interfering in the 2016 US election. In 2018, a Russian internet agency and more than a dozen Russians are charged with interfering in the campaign from 2014 through 2016. It was seen as a multi-pronged effort to support Donald Trump and smear his rival, Hillary Clinton. Putin has continuously denied the claims despite a report in April 2019 from the investigation carried out by U.S. Special Counsel Robert Mueller showing evidence of numerous links between officials working on Trump's presidential campaign and individuals having or claiming ties to the Russian government. Salisbury Poisonings 2018 Former Russian military officer Sergei Skripal and his daughter, Yulia, were found unconscious on a bench in Salisbury, England, in March 2018, before they were hospitalized after falling victim to a Novichok attack. Former Prime Minister Theresa May said was likely the Russian government were behind the attack. The US, EU, UK and Canada collectively expelled more than 100 Russian diplomats and Putin retaliated by expelling Western diplomats. Both Sergei and Yulia spent several weeks in hospital in critical condition, before being discharged. A few months later, 2 British nationals were poisoned with the same nerve agent after a Charlie Rowley found a perfume bottle and gave it to Dawn Sturgis, who sprayed it on her wrist. Dawn sadly died and Charlie survived, as police said it wasn't a targeted attack but a result of how the nerve agent was disposed of. British authorities later identified 2 Russian nationals, using the names Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Boshirov, as suspected of the Skripal's poisoning. It was alleged they were active officers in Russian military intelligence. Ruslan Boshirov was later identified as being the highly decorated GRU Colonel Anatoly Chepiga and Alexander Petrov was Alexander Mishkin, also of the GRU. Imprisonment of Alexei Navalny 2021 Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is currently serving a 3.5-year sentence for an embezzlement charge. He returned to Russia in 2021 after surviving a poisoning attempt in 2020. During a flight from Tomsk to Moscow in 2020, Navalny fell ill and the plane made an emergency landing. He currently faces a further 15 years in jail as a new trial gets underway for a separate embezzlement charge. Navalny strong denies the allegations.